Capitalism, and her company is a certified B Corp. So thank you very much for coming in, Carolyn, to deliver today, and enjoy. See you soon.
Thank you. And if anyone's interested in learning more about conscious capitalism and B Corps, please see me after the event too, because they're probably words or organisations that some of you probably don't really know much about. So, recently I fell in love with the great poet and philosopher David Whyte. Does anyone know David Whyte? It was at the Athenaeum Theatre right up the road here in Collins Street. It was love at first sight when he stepped onto the stage, and oh my God, when he opened his mouth, it was love at first word. For 4 glorious hours I was mesmerised as he shared his poems and stories with us. And what he actually managed to do, and I don't know how he did this, was he teleported us right out of that theatre and into the rooms and the landscapes of his life, where he penned most of his poetry. I was hooked from start to finish. And the theme that was running throughout his magnificent oratory was the beautiful question. Through every poem and every story, he was urging us to consider, what is the question we are not asking ourselves? What is the question we are not asking ourselves? And what might my life look like on the other side of that question? So it was May 2010 when I first found the courage to ask myself the beautiful question. I was at a low point in my life, and I've come to realise that pain always leads to beautiful questions. And on the other side of that question, everything changed. Within 90 days, I'd sold my home, I'd ended an unhealthy love affair, and I'd closed my business. And I found myself living in beautiful Aix-en-Provence in the south of France with my 12-year-old son, Billy. Now, for those of you in the audience that are thinking, oh yeah, she was on an Eat, Pray, Love journey, put your hands up if you're thinking that. I can promise you that you cannot have an Eat, Pray, Love journey with a cranky, soon-to-be teenager in tow. It's impossible. But what that time in France did give me was the opportunity to have a career circuit breaker, to take time out to really think about my future livelihood and to think about my purpose in relation to my future livelihood. And the beautiful question is a question that just keeps on giving, I can tell you. Once you ask it, only more questions come up. Why am I here? What's a contribution we have to make? And how is the world better because we exist? In other words, what is our purpose, my purpose? So for the last 5 years since returning from France, I have been studying and teaching purpose, and I've been helping individuals and organisations find their purpose, articulate their purpose, and bring it to life. And I think the questions that I ask myself are the very same questions that companies should be asking themselves. Why are we here? What is the contribution we're making? And how is the world better because our organisation exists? And one of the programs that we've started running over the last 18 months is a program called Talk on Purpose. And before I introduce our 3 speakers for this morning, I just want to acknowledge the Slow School community that have made it all possible. This has just been an amazing, amazing journey for us, and it's because we have a really cohesive and amazing community here. So I want to call out some people. John Yeo, stand up if you don't mind. From TEDx Melbourne, he's one of our facilitators of this course. Thank you, John. Sandy McDonald, who is one of our most amazing facilitators as well. And her beautiful husband, Roger, sitting right next to her, who's an amazing poet and wordsmith as well. I want to thank also Irma for all the design work she's done, Beth for photography, Matt, Oliver, Philippe, Rory, have I forgotten anyone? Rob, of course, up the back there, filming, thank you. These programs can't happen without a community, and I think that at the heart of any purpose-driven organisation is community, and that's exactly what Slow School is and how we brought Talk on Purpose to life through our community. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce to you our first graduate from our last Talk on Purpose program, who is Matt Perfect. And Matt is going to speak. His presentation is on having and giving. Please give him a hand.
Have you ever tried to explain something really complicated to a 3-year-old? A few years ago, I was sitting on my daughter's bed one night after work, reading her a bedtime story, and she looked at me in my crumpled suit and said, "Dad, what do you do at work all day?" And what followed was probably one of the most uncomfortable moments of my life as I tried to justify my existence as a procurement consultant to my 3-year-old daughter. Well, I meet with people to help them save money when they buy stuff so that they can make more stuff so that we can buy stuff with the money I make working for them. Didn't matter how many zeros were involved, she was not buying it. And I went to bed that night feeling that something had to change in my life. Later that same year, Michael Porter and Mark Kramer published their paper on shared value in the Harvard Business Review. For me, as an economist, this had a profound effect. See, here was a serious economic theory from a reputable global business school that said it was not only possible, but in fact essential, that businesses should make great profits while at the same time solving social problems. Businesses like Thank You Water, one of probably 100 bottled water brands you can choose from here in Australia today. The difference is when you buy a bottle of Thank You Water, you're funding water projects overseas that are changing lives. 170,000 of them so far. But for me personally, shared value allowed me to reconcile a conflict that I've been grappling with since I was a child. See, growing up in England, I had a privileged upbringing in every sense. My father, a businessman, would come home from work each night running his successful electronics company, and my mother, the volunteer, would go out to work for charity. On the weekends, we'd spend Saturdays drifting around the south coast in my dad's yacht, and Sundays out rattling tins raising money for Mum's charity. Of course, it wasn't until much later in my life that I realised that through this somewhat paradoxical childhood, both my parents had been teaching me something important, that a business brain and a social conscience mattered. But increasingly in the world around me, I've been observing a disconnect, a widening gap between having and giving. On the one hand, as consumers, we're buying more and more stuff from bigger and bigger companies with less and less understanding of the impact that our spending is having. On the other hand, we're giving more and more money to charities and not-for-profits who are desperately trying to solve the very same problems that our spending is creating. It's insane, isn't it? Well, impact spending is about closing that gap. Having and giving with the same dollar. Spending not just for the stuff we can have, but for the impact we can have. Now that's a story I'm excited to tell my kids about the work I do and the way we spend our money. In the future, they won't need an economist to make sense of their lives, because this is the future that we can create for them. And I, for one, am excited to be a part of it.
Thank you very much, Matt. And our second storyteller this morning is Beth Jennings, and her talk is on what really matters. Sorry.
So, what really matters? Smiles or tears? I believe your life runs like a movie in real time, And photography gives you the power to hit pause on the best bits. That's why I'm a photographer, so I can stop time on the best bits. This is Meg. She's 5. Dad's leaving the next day for 3 weeks. I'll go on, Meg, smile for the camera. But that day, Meg was Daddy's little girl playing with her beads. This is Christian. Christian is a soft tissue therapist for high performance horses, as in race horses. He fixes horses where vets and physios often can't. He comes in really close to a horse, takes 2 to 3 breaths a minute. Then the horse submits to him, then he can diagnose the problem and treat the horse. It's fascinating and totally confusing. So Christian lives in a bit of a man's world full of fur and dirt. And he thought to be photographed would mean, you know, striking manly poses, leaning on horses, being the horse mechanic. I'd been online and watched videos of Christian doing this work, and I said to him, you know, I think I see an opportunity here for something more. And he said, I'd love you to capture the illusion. Now, when I was 7, I was riding a horse and it sat down in a creek, rolled over on its side, pinned my leg underneath it, and I got drenched. I'm not a horse person. Let alone, what does, in fact, any photographer actually know about how to capture an illusion? So, on the day, I arrived, on the one hand, with 3 basic, obvious shot ideas to get started. A portrait, something of Christian with a horse, and a wide shot of the stable. But with the intention that if I saw something worth capturing, I would. 2.5 hours later, we created a collection of 100 photographs that elegantly describe this energetic dance that goes on between Christian and the horse who submits to him. His mother cries every time she sees them. His sister-in-law said, oh wow, you should show these to every race trainer in the world that you want to work with. And the trainers who he currently works with said, yeah, good on you, mate. But it was for real, not to take the piss. So, next time you reach for your camera, will you capture what you think you should, or what really matters?
Thank you, Beth. And our last speaker, Oliver Zimmerman's Evolution on 2 Wheels.
As a kid, I remember when the side wheels came off my bike and I rode on 2 wheels for the first time. Bikes and I go back a long, long way, through the crazy streets of Johannesburg, through the African countryside, Switzerland, Thailand, even Australia. I recall 10 years ago, on a glorious Melbourne morning, much better than this one, riding up a hill on my way to work. I was in the zone, at one with the road, feeling groovy, wind rushing through my hair. I had hair then. When, bang, in an instant, all those feelings were gone, as I rode at full speed into the back of the car. That car was, rather ironically, parked outside the Institute for the Blind. The bike was trashed, the car not a scratch, and me, well, I had a severely bruised ego. I really wanted to blame that car, but I knew it was just my own doing. To me, that's how life can be sometimes. Everything's going well, you're feeling great, when all of a sudden, something happens and you're lying on the ground. I'm literally 1 in a million. I'm one of the 1 million Australian adults who has depression. It's not something you just wake up with, pick up the phone and say, "Morning boss, won't be in today, got a bit of depression, but I'll be fine, I'll be in tomorrow, don't worry." It doesn't work like that. It sits in the shadows, walls you in, bounces on you in unexpected moments. So, what does this have to do with bicycles, you may ask? Well, in my case, quite a lot. It put me, getting on the bike got me off the cycle of depression. So you say, great, you got into cycling. How's that going to change your life? Well, cycling was just the tip of the iceberg in my case. It put me on the road to self-discovery, taught me to follow my passions, to feel life more. And with the help of my wife and my family and getting on the bike, I was able to turn the corner, climb up out of that valley and look beyond. So what are my lessons? Do what you love, not what you should. Excuses are simply an escape, and keep pedaling, it stops you from falling off.
So what we're going to do now is a Q&A. If the three speakers can come back up here. And could you hear up the back, Rory? Just? Yeah, so we might get the microphones. We probably should have used the microphone. All three of them are available for hire to do these talks again. You didn't hear them the first time. You're not going to get out of here alive today yourself, you know that. You're actually also going to we're going to do a little mini storytelling workshop after we have the Q&A. Come over here, guys, so I feel like I'm interviewing you for a job. So Matt is what I call a corporate escapee, affectionately known as a corporate escapee. And so the question I have for you is, I just want to know about your previous life and what it is that you're doing now.
Well, procurement consultant was my previous life. I guess I still operate under that, but what's changed for me, I guess, is the why. So, I got into procurement like most people in the profession. I fell into procurement, economics degree, a thirst for getting into big business. I loved doing deals, working with clients and my employers to sort of save millions of dollars working with their key supplier relationships. And really, it was always about creating more shareholder value, growing profits for businesses so they could return more to shareholders. I still do that, but now I guess what's changed is really the focus with impact spending on all stakeholders, not just the shareholder. That's really what's changed around how I work, and I guess a lot of that came from really asking that beautiful question of myself, which came prompted by my daughter a few years ago to say, well, why do I do what I do?
And in our work at Slow School, we come across many corporate escapees, and I have a view that if organisations don't need to grapple with the problem around corporate escapees, if they could have enabled someone like Matt to actually infuse the organisation with impact spending and to start the conversation. So I always say start right where you are, don't fly out the door. Entrepreneurship is bloody hard work and it's not for everyone. And so if Matt had been in an organisation where he felt able to articulate his purpose and share it and infuse some of his values into the organisation, how much better that organisation would be. So the whole idea that we have to escape, it's a bit sad, but it's not for the faint-hearted, but you did it. So what do you think companies could do to keep people like you, Matt?
Well, I think I think you said it. I don't believe that you have to be an entrepreneur to find your purpose. I definitely agree that I think there's lots of people who are pursuing great careers that really align with what they care about and their values and their purpose within big organisations. I think I think the responsibility is on both the employer and the employee as well. I mean, I often refer to it as BYO purpose, bring your own purpose to work. I think what companies need to do is really create the space and give permission for their employees to do that, to find out what matters to them and to connect it with their work, and that's very much what I'm doing now with a lot of the clients that I work with in the impact spending space. It was about me finding the purpose in procurement of what I do, and now I'm able to work with people who want to do the same thing within large and small organisations. So.
Excellent, thank you. And now on to Beth. So Beth's a photographer. I think she's photographed pretty much every slow school member in the audience. Having worked personally with her, it's the most amazing experience that I've had with a photographer ever. So I've felt her purpose on fire, I can tell you. So Beth, I mean, you've been a photographer ever since you left university for the last 20 years, and then I know over the last 9 years you were sort of grappling with what is your purpose and your why within your work. So tell us what's changed for you.
Yeah, the word purpose was not the word I was using at the time. It was, well, who am I as a photographer? Because everyone's a photographer, right? Everyone's got a camera. So for me, it was not actually the word purpose, but it was, well, who am I as a photographer? What makes me unique? What am I speaking about with a camera? And so I decided 9 years ago, I'm just going to spend the energy to try to figure this out. And yeah, I was getting closer to it in terms of the craft, much closer. And this was a full expression of it, what you saw with Christian with the horse. But I didn't have the language around it. I couldn't say it easily to people. So it was just this like burden. I couldn't get it out. That now I can. And it's changed the whole way I feel about who I am as a photographer. Is just like it's landed. It just feels really solid and really clear. And I don't mind if you don't like it. Like I'm not trying to please everybody now. I'm just trying to please me and the people who want to work with me for what I can do for them.
So you've done a lot of photography now for purpose-driven leaders. What is it that you see when you're on the other side of the camera and you're taking photos? What is it that you see in terms of leadership in purpose-driven people that you're photographing?
Yeah, look, I'd say it's even before we photograph. So in my particular case, I do a lot of interviewing and understanding before I photograph people. In the case with people who ask the same set of questions, and it's really evident in what comes back as to whether or not they're clear on their own purpose and where they're going and who they are and what they're doing and why they're doing it. And if they can give that to me really succinctly, then I get really excited. And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, how could we photograph that? So when they don't have that clarity, the conversation goes a lot longer, and I feel we've come away from it. I feel like, well, what are we going to do? So yeah, that's the difference is in my personal experience between people who have the clarity on their purpose and the people who don't.
Excellent, thank you, Beth. And now over to Oliver, who isn't a corporate escapee. He actually works in insurance.
Still a prisoner.
Still a prisoner. He works in a large insurance company. And Oliver, I just wanted to talk more about depression. Do you think it's adequately addressed in the corporate space?
I have to be honest and say no, but I have to just say that there is work towards it. There is more recognition of it, but they have a long way to go. And I'm talking in my context, may be different elsewhere.
And so what would you like to see happen?
I'd like to see corporates just be more aware of their, actually, I was just talking to my partner about this yesterday, or she raised it that why don't they know what their staff, why don't they know their staff, and why don't they ask them those questions? How are you feeling? Are you okay today? You don't seem to be in a good mood. It's just not the corporate way at the moment, and it really should be. I think if you have that, you'll have much more engaged people working with you, and you'll be working towards a purpose as well. So and you'll feel that they're on your, that their purpose aligns with yours.
So I must tell you that before doing Talk on Purpose, Oliver hadn't actually done a public talk before or spoken publicly about depression. So it's a pretty phenomenal effort, and yeah, I really admire him for having the courage to stand up and share, because that's what storytelling should be about. Storytelling should be about sharing something deep about you that inspires others to actually make a change and to pursue that beautiful question as well. What I might do is just maybe take 2 or 3 questions from the audience, and then we'll get into a workshop. So does anyone have any questions for our speakers? No? Okay. All right, so I have a question for you. So what we're going to do now is a little bit of a storytelling workshop. So I'm going to ask you to start by doing a short meditation. So I'd like you all to get comfortable, put away those digital devices, stop tweeting about us, and you can start tweeting as soon as we finish this exercise, please. Thanks, Oliver. So this is something that we do in all of our events and workshops. We infuse mindfulness and meditation in everything that we do at Slow School. So we really believe that the best learning comes from a space of stillness and being slow and mindful. So I'd like you all to sit back in the chair, feet flat on the floor, close your eyes, sit with your back in the chair. Just get comfortable. I'd like you to think about an experience that has brought you real joy in the past. Think about an experience that's brought you real joy and happiness. And I want you to try and feel that feeling throughout your whole body. Take 3 deep breaths as you're feeling that experience. Now I'd like you to think about some words that are coming up for you. It might be one word, a sentence, a few words. And what is the question that comes up around those words for you? The beautiful question. And if you had a story to share, something from your past, a story, a very personal story that you would want to share, what might that be? And when you're ready, take 3 deep breaths. And open your eyes. Wiggle your fingers. And now we're going to practice a deep listening exercise. So what this is about is an opportunity for you to share with a total stranger what just came up for you. I always find the deepest things come when you're talking to people that don't know you. So we're going to practice a deep listening exercise. So this isn't like a Q&A and a conversation. This is actually where each person will get 3 minutes to just talk about what came up for them. Now, the goal of the listener is to just listen, nod, acknowledge, no questions. I only want to hear one person in the pair talking. The listener, what I'd like you to do is to actually notice in the speaker when you see an energy shift. Often you can see where they'll start in their head and they'll kind of drop down into their heart. The energy changes, the words change. You'll notice it. And what I really want you to do is to observe as a listener. Not just listen, but actually really feel. The other thing that you'll do is you'll notice something within their talk that hits something in you. I can promise you in every discussion there will be, or every sharing, there'll be something in what is shared that is actually sparks something for you as well. So as the listener, our goal is to notice what we're seeing from the person that's sharing, to notice what resonates for you, and then once that person's shared for 3 minutes, your goal then will be to feed back to them for a minute on what it is you heard through that sharing. And then we'll swap over. Does that make sense? Are you up for it? And also we're going to practice some mindful intervention at 3 minutes. So instead of me going quiet, 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 I'm going to put my hand up when the 3 minutes is up. And then what I would like you to do is whoever sees my hand up to put their hand up. And that's how we're going to gain quiet. So rather than me yelling down the microphone for 5 minutes to get everyone to stop, we're going to practice the hand up exercise. So first thing is to go and find a stranger. And it might be someone next to you or someone around you, and then we'll practice this exercise. So find a stranger. Don't all jump up at once. We need to do this with you all, guys.
Yeah, we do that. I'm putting myself on YouTube and I'll send you the link tomorrow morning.
Oh, thanks, Atula. That'd be lovely. Okay, have you found a stranger? Have you found a stranger? Hello? It works. Oh my God, it works. So, now you've found your stranger. You cannot, mother and daughter, you cannot go together, sorry. So, hands up, number 1. Okay, who's going to go first in your pair? Right? Okay, so we'll start the 3 minutes. You're all clear on what you have to do? Go.
Because we do this event from the church maybe
Okay, alright. And I'll get some technical stuff, like we're doing different college 800 students. Different speakers will just bring back different.
When we can have the talk
Our next public one's in July. 3 days. Yeah. But we really want to bring out each level of space where we pay for it and selling public tickets as well.
I'm trying to get a social justice program happening in Silicon Beach. I've been wanting to do that for the past 2 years. I met your advisor, Rory. I've been following his blog.
His blogs are very good, aren't they? Yeah, no, he's been fantastic.
So I'd like to get in and you, if you have people like advisors to
Yeah. Did you go to big? Yeah, so did I. Everyone I know went for that. 400 applications.
Yeah.
Is that all? I thought they'd even get more than that.
No, I don't think they are very different.
Oh, when do they find out? When
They said this month, but I don't think
Right. This month.
they don't
Well,
have
what's their screening criteria?
no idea. I haven't published anything. So I'm not holding it. We're going to pick up an event to, raise money so that we can and so I was the Sydney one, the second one is not doing very well. So we might start
Yeah, I've got a lot, but I don't really do much in Sydney. Our goal is to get this as a product into market and get some cash. We had an inquiry from the United Arab Emirates yesterday, and it's a legitimate one. I thought it might have been like a... Okay, so now what I'd like is the 1 minute for the listener to reflect back on what they heard, what came up for them, and go. Our goal is, so we're only going to run 2 public courses a year, and then Templestowe College wanting us to do it there. We've got interest from other schools, so we want to bring business leaders and students to do the course together. It's incredibly, the 3 days, they just get so, it's all the human skills and communication and everything else that happens. Yeah, to me, TEDx is about life-changing ideas and it's conceptual, whereas this is personal. This is about me actually doing something. Yeah, but older story, he's now having discussions at work with people about passion that he's never had before in this course. It works. Okay, swap over now. Start.
It's a really good story. I'm Attila, I'm in Silicon Beach, so this is being live streamed and I put it up on YouTube as well. Yeah. At the moment there's one viewer somewhere in the world, but there are a few people dropping around. But when you put it on YouTube, you'll be famous very soon. But that's good. I'm quite interested in project pictures. Okay, so it's good supporting you there. Yeah, my app idea was on vacation, mindfulness, and we were able to help people but I sort of put that on hold because there are so many apps and now there's quite a lot. And not commercially viable. So now I'm thinking of bringing that to virtual reality, augmented reality. So the technology is a bit too new, so I'm waiting to maybe next year. So I'll be in touch with you. You can advise me. Hello everyone, thanks for watching. Hi Nado from Russia, how are you? What time is it in Russia? It's about 9 o'clock in the morning here in Melbourne, Australia on Friday morning, and I'm at General Assembly Melbourne, General Assembly 2 p.m. Okay, welcome. General Assembly Melbourne, which is a educational institution, a startup that started in New York. This is the Melbourne branch. What General Assembly does is educate startup founders and techies about web development, marketing and things like that. And I run Melbourne Silicon Beach, which is a community, tech startup community. Anyone who wants to do any startup on any tech-related subjects or apps, web apps or mobile apps, and graphic design, anything to do with technology, web and Internet of Things and 3D printing, making, come along, network, find their team and start global businesses. So I'm here today at General Assembly Melbourne on this talk on purpose. It's about finding your why and finding your true purpose and doing something that you really care about and being the change in the world that you like to see. We are about to launch a social justice program within Melbourne Silicon Beach, so this speech and the program associated with that with Carolyn Tate, who's the founder of Slow School of Business, is going to be the catalyst for that. So let's get back to the proceedings. I think some people are going to talk now.
So can I just have some insights from people, and particularly in that exercise, what came up? How did you find that exercise?
Was really beneficial. So we hadn't done and it allowed me time to think purposefully. So that was surprisingly useful as a skeptic. And the other thing I noticed by the purposeful listening is how expressive my partner's eyes were. And I don't look at people's eyes this closely. You know? Every time she spoke about the joy of that experience, her eyes just shone like little lights, and then she spoke about a time like, I can't be like this at work, and the eyes closed again, the lights went on. So it was lovely seeing that connection between why can't we have fun at work in the same way as I had when I was on holiday with my family. That's fantastic.
Fantastic, thank you. Any other insights, comments? Yes?
It was really good actually having everyone talking at the same time. It somehow made it more comfortable. I found you can have your conversation even though everyone was having a conversation right next to you, you still felt like you're in that small little bubble having a conversation one-to-one with the partner. And as the previous speaker said, that few minutes of meditation at the start really helped focus on a purpose and a story that you wanted to say, and then how I like to feel as well.
Fantastic, thank you. Any other insights, comments? Yes, we might just need to speak up so everyone can hear, unless we want to pass the microphone over.
I'll speak
You'll
up.
speak up, thank you.
So I noticed when I saw Spots that Millie was telling her story, it made me one of the things that
think that's the power of a story. There is not a story you will listen to that you don't actually, there's not an element of it that will actually resonate for you. Any other insights? Yes?
I found it really difficult to not ask questions. Because I sort of wanted to know a bit more or something like that, and just to let the other person just speak and flow.
Yeah.
Was a new experience.
It is difficult to not ask questions. Why do you think I didn't allow people to ask a question? What's the problem if there hadn't been questions?
Because you're thinking it's a question you're going to ask rather than listening to the person.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're breaking their thoughts up. We're thinking about what we're going to say, not listening. Why else? Yeah. So our questions become sort of self-directed quite often, and they can actually circumvent people from sharing what might have come up next, because when we stop asking questions and when we just listen, the speaker will often divulge to themselves something that they had just, they're on the cusp of some breakthrough, and then we ask a question and they're gone. So that's why we practice deep listening, and this is just a taste test of some of the activities that we run throughout Talk on Purpose. Any other insights? Comments? Imogen?
I thought it was really amazing how clear the energy shifts are when you actually open yourself up to looking for them. And with Sandy, it was amazing how the different emotions or energy really informed the background of the story. Like, she didn't need to say that her grandchildren were infants. It was just clear from the softness that she had around talking about them that that's the stage of life they were at.
Lovely. Philippe, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I like the fact that we can share something very private and very emotional with someone we never met before in 2 minutes. So I think that's very precious too.
Who finds it easier to share everything with a stranger more than their own family? Imagine though, if we could share with a stranger, like we do with a stranger, with our own family, it would be pretty amazing, wouldn't it? Any other insights? Or maybe not?
Speaking about that, that would depend on how aligned your values are with your families. Like if your values are going in a different direction to that of your, say, your parents, then it could make it hard to talk about more like deeper thoughts or more personal things. For example, just between the two of us, both of us talked about how our parents tried to meld us into particular careers, whereas we may not have that desire.
And actually that's a great segue. We'll leave it there because I know everyone's got to get to work, and hopefully you're going to take this enthusiasm and fun from today into your work day. But Koji, that's a very interesting point that you make, because students, Monday we're actually delivering a similar format to 800 students at Templestowe College here in Melbourne. And our goal is to bring Talk on Purpose into the secondary schools, because if we can get them having these conversations around what they're passionate about and what their purpose is, we can help them redirect their education accordingly. So Templestowe College, for any of you that don't know, Templestowe College, it is a government school out in Templestowe, funny that, and Peter Hutton is the headmaster of the school, and he was invited by John to speak at TEDx a couple of years ago, and his talk is fantastic. If you want to have a look at his talk, Peter Hutton, TEDx Melbourne, just type that into Google. And his personal mission is to kill ATAR, which is pretty much to kill the VCE scoring system, for any of you that know that. And the purpose of their school is to help students take control of their own education. So throughout the school, you would see there's a lot of practices that they have implemented in order to help kids uncover what's really important to them, so they can then create the education that they need to support that. So fantastic that we're doing that at Templestowe on Monday. And our goal with schools is to bring business leaders with students in to do the Talk on Purpose program together, because we think business leaders could learn an awesome amount from students, you know, the Year 9, Year 10 students, and vice versa. So we're launching Talk on Purpose, or TOP, Templestowe next week, which is pretty exciting. We're also, you know, one of the things you might have read with Watch Your Story, there was a byline on the event that said tech heads get human. I also have a personal passion to bring humanity into technology, to balance humanity with technology. I think in a tech space we have a danger that we may be getting too rational and functional, and we probably need to bring some more emotional, spiritual balance into the tech world. So we're going to run one called Top Tech, and we want to bring 12 tech companies with one person from each company together on the stage. So that's another program we're running. We're also running a public course for Talk on Purpose, which is open to anybody on the 5th, 6th and 7th of July. So if you go onto our website, you'll see it. Just type in Talk on Purpose in Google and it will come up. And we're also wanting to bring this into the corporate space as well, because you'll see from the flyer that you have on your desk, that on your chair, I mean, that we believe, and this is what's very much come to light with Talk on Purpose. If you look at that red panel on the top of that, on the front of that brochure, we believe that leaders are actually made at the intersection of purpose, of being able to tell a story that infuses that purpose, and then being able to publicly share it. Because for me, to be able to tell a story and then share it publicly is where we can start inspiring other people to do what they really love and to do work that is on purpose. And we fundamentally believe, actually before I close, I forgot an announcement, didn't I, Matt? Your impact spending. Oh yeah. So do you want to tell people about that?
We do. Part of the Slow School community is we host dinners around different topics, and we've got one on the 9th of June. I'll be hosting it around impact spending. It's going to be at Charcoal Lane in Fitzroy. So it's in the evening of 9th of June. Jump on the Slow School website and you can register or Google it on Eventbrite impact spending dinner.
Great, thank you. So fundamentally, I believe that the essence of leadership has actually nothing to do with title and position, and everything to do with the desire to serve others and something beyond ourselves, a higher purpose. And it's at the intersection of purpose, storytelling and public speaking where leaders come to the fore. And Talk on Purpose isn't aimed at the C-suites. It's actually aimed at the quiet achievers within the organisations that have a story to share and that can bring purpose to life in the organisation. So we would love to have you on board. You can go onto our Slow School website and register to get our emails and just keep up to date with Talk on Purpose and with Slow School and the events that are coming up. I would love to thank you all for sharing so deeply and honestly today, for coming in for breakfast this morning. One other thing I forgot to mention, Vincent here is actually from a company called Chisholm. So for organisations that are actually looking for funding to run a program like this, they have access to government funding. Don't swamp him at the end. But definitely talk to him if you really think this is a course that you'd absolutely love to do in your company, because what they do is support organisations to get funding, government funding. So speak to Vincent at the end. And also, before we close, there is a door prize of 2 books. There was going to be 3. Our darling Sandy McDonald, who actually, maybe you can post it to them. Draw it and I'll post it. So the facilitators for Slow School are a pretty accomplished bunch. We've got John Yeo, who runs TEDx Melbourne, and coaches speakers all over the globe. We've got Sandy McDonald, who was a TEDx speaker for Melbourne, not last year, the year before. She got a standing ovation. There's me, there's also Rob, who is our digital storyteller, who's been photographing this morning, is another facilitator, and also Yamini Naidu, who is one of Australia's leading business storytellers. So we've got a pretty amazing crew of facilitators that actually run this course. Did I miss anyone? No. Good. And so we are quite accomplished, because 3 of the women, by the way, we've all written books. So there's a door prize, and one of the books is Yamini's new book, which is called Power Play, which is all about storytelling. I thoroughly recommend that you get that. And my book, which is Conscious Marketing, and which really tells you how purpose can actually be marketing. You know, like I think purpose is marketing. And then the third book is Sandy's, which is called Get It Right Online. So, so that's the door prize. Now, we're not doing a raffle draw. There is actually a sticker under somebody's seat, a General Assembly sticker. So you have to actually stand up or feel under your seat to see if you've got the sticker.
No, IKEA.
It's probably an empty seat. That would be right. Please don't poke anyone's eye out with the chair. Anyone got it? Hey, I better check if Gary actually put the sticker there. I think he did. Has anyone found a sticker? Oh my god. There's no sticker. Alright, so how am I going to choose this? Maybe I'll ask a question. Who's, hey, you found it? Oh, well, you grabbed it. You got the chair. You got it.
Sandy's chair.
You found it?
It's Sandy's chair.
Oh, it was sad. Oh my god. Alright. We did find the sticker, but it was an empty chair.
I saw that one.
So, yes. There we go. You get it. You found it. Alright, so...
Okay, I might stop it there. Thank you for watching. This will be available on YouTube, on Silicon Beach TV YouTube channel shortly, probably overnight. And see you around at the next Periscope telecast. Thank you.